Bought a house, I got into school, and I got the car that I wanted that he told me I should never get.
And he doesn't know anything?
No.
It's hard to forget the moment the news broke. Garrison Brown, gone far too soon, and suddenly the entire Sister Wives world felt like it had been turned upside down. The grief was raw, almost unbearable to watch. You could see it in Janelle's eyes, the way her voice cracked as she tried to hold her family together. But what made it even more gut-wrenching wasn't just the loss itself, it was what happened next. The cameras caught a family not just mourning, but fracturing. Old wounds ripped open, trust shattered, and the person everyone expected to step up, Kody, seemed more lost and defensive than ever. Instead of comfort, there was blame. Instead of unity, there was distance. And in the middle of it all, Robyn, holding tight to her own, while the rest of the family felt pushed further away. Hi friends, I'm Sarah, and this is TLC Sister Wives Daily. If you're as shocked and heartbroken as I am by what's unfolded, make sure you hit subscribe and let me know in the comments how you felt watching these moments. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the real story behind the Brown family's collapse, the betrayals, the manipulation, and the choices that left so many feeling abandoned. We're talking about Kody, Robyn, Janelle, Meri, and Christine, the people who built this family, and the ones who watched it fall apart. This isn't just about polygamy. It's about what happens when trust is broken, and the people you love most turn out to be the ones who hurt you the deepest. When Sister Wives first hit our screens, the Browns promised something radical, a family built on unity, shared parenting, and the idea that love could multiply, not divide. Kody, with his big dreams and even bigger personality, talked about raising all his kids together, no matter which wife they came from. Janelle, Meri, and Christine each brought their own strengths, quirks, and hopes to the table. They're ours. There were birthday parties where every kid felt celebrated, family meetings where everyone had a voice, and late-night kitchen talks that made it seem like this wild experiment in plural marriage might actually work. The show sold us on the idea that despite the challenges, these people were committed to making it work for the sake of their children and each other. But even in those early seasons, you could sense the cracks forming. Kody's attention started to drift. He'd always been a little scattered, but suddenly it felt like he was more interested in chasing the next big thing than nurturing what he already had. Then Robyn entered the picture. At first, she seemed like a breath of fresh air, young, hopeful, eager to join the family. But her arrival changed everything. The dynamic shifted. The original three wives, who had spent years building a delicate balance, suddenly found themselves competing for Kody's time and affection in ways they never had before. It was subtle at first. Kody would light up around Robyn in a way that felt different. The other wives noticed, and so did the viewers. Family outings started to feel awkward. The kids, who once ran between houses without a second thought, began to sense the tension. Watching it unfold, I remember feeling a pit in my stomach. The foundation that once seemed so solid was starting to shake. The dream of one big, happy family was slipping away, replaced by uncertainty and quiet resentment. You could see it in the way Christine's smile faded, the way Janelle grew more reserved, and the way Meri tried to hold on, even as she felt herself slipping to the sidelines. The Browns' promise of unity was already under threat, and the real story was just beginning. Robyn didn't just walk into the Brown family. She brought a whole new set of rules with her. Unlike the original three wives, Robyn grew up in a polygamous home where the wives barely interacted. Her father split his time, holidays were divided, and the idea of one big blended family was more fantasy than reality. So when she joined Kody, Janelle, Meri, and Christine, she stepped into a world that was already fragile, but still clinging to the hope of togetherness. Robyn's version of polygamy was about separation, not unity, and it didn't take long for that to show. From the start, Kody was smitten. The way he looked at Robyn was different, more attentive, more eager to please. The other wives noticed, and so did the audience. Suddenly, Kody's time was stretched thinner, but it was clear who he prioritized. Robyn's needs came first, her opinions carried more weight, and her children quickly became the center of his world. The family's structure shifted. Where there had once been a sense of shared responsibility, now there was a hierarchy, with Robyn and her kids at the top. The original wives felt it immediately. Christine, who had always been the family's cheerleader, started to pull back. Janelle, practical and steady, grew frustrated as her voice was drowned out. Meri, who had been Kody's first and only legal wife, suddenly found herself on the outside looking in. The easy camaraderie between the women faded, replaced by suspicion and quiet competition. Even the kids, who had once moved freely between homes, started to sense the invisible walls going up. Robyn's influence wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. She pushed hard for Meri to stay in the family, but not out of sisterly love. Meri, by then, was isolated and vulnerable, her relationship with Kody all but gone. Robyn saw an opportunity. Keeping Meri around meant another adult contributing financially, someone who could be managed and compared against, but who posed no real threat to her position. Meri became a convenient ally when drama was needed, a buffer who made Robyn look generous by comparison. But the truth was, Robyn's push for Meri to stay was about control and money, not connection. Watching it all play out, it was impossible not to feel for the original wives. They were losing their family piece by piece, and the person who was supposed to bring them closer was quietly pulling them apart. The shift in power was complete. Robyn and Kody at the center, everyone else orbiting around them, struggling to hold on to what little influence they had left. Money was always a sore spot in the Brown family, but after Robyn joined, it became a full-blown battleground. The show made it clear every wife was expected to contribute to the family pot, no matter how much or how little they had. But as the seasons rolled on, it was obvious that not everyone was playing by the same rules. Robyn's spending habits stood out. She had debts when she joined, and the family helped pay them off. She wanted a new house, and somehow, she got it. While Janelle and Christine were left waiting, scraping together what they could, sometimes even living in an RV just to make ends meet. The resentment simmered just below the surface. Janelle, who had always been careful with money, watched as Robyn's wish list seemed to get longer and more expensive. There were new cars, designer purses, endless toys for the kids, and that infamous doll collection that took up entire rooms. Meanwhile, the original wives were driving old cars, pinching pennies, and making sacrifices for the good of the group. It didn't feel like a partnership anymore. It felt like a one-way street with Robyn and her kids at the end, collecting the toll. Kody didn't help. He expected the original wives to keep pitching in for Robyn's children, even as their own kids were growing up and facing real struggles. When it came time for college tuition, medical bills, or even basic support, the older children were often left to fend for themselves. Christine had to drag Kody to court just to get child support for Truly. Isabel's back surgery? Kody barely showed up, emotionally or financially. Savannah and the other older kids worked, joined the military, or relied on their moms to get by. The message was clear. If you weren't Robyn's child, you were on your own. Watching this unfold, it was impossible not to feel angry for the original wives. They gave everything, time, money, emotional labor, only to be sidelined when it mattered most. The unfairness was staggering. Meri, Janelle, and Christine were expected to bankroll Robyn's lifestyle while their own children went without. The emotional toll was just as heavy. You could see it in their faces, hear it in their voices. Years of sacrifice, only to be treated like outsiders in their own family. The Browns' financial arrangement wasn't just lopsided, it was a recipe for heartbreak, and it played out in front of millions. Meri's story is one of the most painful arcs in the entire Sister Wives saga. For years, she was Kody's first and only legal wife, the one who helped build the foundation of the family. But as time went on, Kody's affection for Meri faded. The distance between them grew, and it was never more obvious than during the infamous IVF conversation. Meri, desperate for another child, opened up about her hopes and fears. Kody, instead of offering support, shut her down. He left the decision up to her, but when she finally said yes, he dismissed her feelings and the conversation ended in heartbreak. That moment was a turning point. You could see the light go out in Meri's eyes. She was left alone, emotionally abandoned by the man she'd given everything to. Then came the catfishing scandal. Meri, isolated and vulnerable, reached out for connection and ended up being deceived by someone online. Instead of compassion, Kody used the incident as an excuse to pull away even further. He told the cameras he didn't consider himself married to Meri anymore. The humiliation was public, the rejection complete. Meri stayed, hoping for a miracle, but the writing was on the wall. She was no longer a partner, just a reminder of what the family used to be. While Meri was being pushed out, Christine and Janelle were finding their voices. Christine, always the peacemaker, finally admitted she couldn't do it anymore. She wanted more than crumbs of affection. Janelle, practical and independent, refused to play along with Kody and Robyn's games. She called out the manipulation, stood up for her kids, and made it clear she wouldn't be controlled. Kody didn't handle their independence well. He lashed out, accused them of disloyalty, and doubled down on his favoritism for Robyn. The more the original wives tried to assert themselves, the more Kody retreated into his bubble with Robyn. The family's unity shattered in slow motion, but there were moments when you could see it break in real time. The land meetings at Coyote Pass, where Kody changed the rules to benefit Robyn. The COVID rules, which always seemed to keep Robyn's household safe while isolating everyone else. The holidays, where the original kids were left out and Robyn's children got the spotlight. It was a pattern, one set of rules for Robyn, another for everyone else. All of this played out under the shadow of their faith. The wives were raised to believe that leaving wasn't just a divorce, it was a spiritual death sentence. Their worth was tied to their ability to submit, to endure, to keep the family together at any cost. Watching them struggle with that pressure, knowing how much they sacrificed, made their eventual decision to walk away even more powerful. The emotional abuse, the favoritism, the constant shifting of the goalposts, it was too much for anyone to bear. The Brown family's dream was over, and the cost was written on the faces of the women who finally chose themselves. Garrison's death was the kind of tragedy that should have brought the family together, if only for a moment. Instead, it exposed just how deep the wounds had become. Janelle, already carrying the weight of so many disappointments, was suddenly faced with the unimaginable, losing her son. She grieved openly, her pain raw and unfiltered. Even in her heartbreak, she tried to keep the family from falling apart completely. She reached out to her children, offered comfort where she could, and did her best to honor Garrison's memory with dignity and love. The strength she showed in those days was nothing short of remarkable. But Kody's reaction was something else entirely. Instead of stepping up as a father, he seemed more interested in defending himself. He bristled at any suggestion that he might have played a role in the family's breakdown. When Janelle tried to talk to him, hoping for some kind of shared grief or understanding, Kody turned the conversation into a blame game. He accused her of yelling, of not supporting him, of making things harder than they needed to be. There was no empathy, no real acknowledgement of her pain. It was as if he couldn't see past his own hurt feelings long enough to be there for the mother of his child. Then came the whispers about Garrison's estate. Viewers started to pick up on rumors that Kody wanted a say in how Garrison's assets were handled, maybe even a share for himself. Whether or not those rumors were true, the fact that they gained traction says everything about how far Kody's reputation had fallen. The idea that a father would even consider profiting from his son's death was unthinkable, but in the context of everything else the family had been through, it didn't seem impossible. The show didn't shy away from the tension. You could see the discomfort on Janelle's face, the way she bristled at Kody's entitlement, the way the other kids closed ranks around their mother. For viewers, it was heartbreaking and infuriating all at once. Garrison's passing should have been a moment for healing, but instead, it became another chapter in the family's unraveling. The emotional fallout was everywhere, on social media, in interviews, in the way fans talked about the show. People were angry, not just at Kody, but at the system that allowed his kind of betrayal to happen. The Browns had always promised to put family first, but in the end, it was clear that some promises were never meant to be kept. The final split didn't happen all at once, but when it did, it felt like the end of an era. Christine was the first to walk away, packing up her life and moving to Utah with a sense of relief that was impossible to miss. She'd spent years trying to make it work, but in the end, she chose her own happiness and her children's well-being over a marriage that had become nothing but heartache. Janelle followed, quietly but firmly. She'd always been the steady one, the problem solver, but even she reached her breaking point. Watching her stand up for herself and her kids, refusing to be manipulated any longer, was a moment of real strength. Meri, who had held on the longest, finally let go too. After years of being sidelined and humiliated, she realized she deserved more than crumbs. With Christine, Janelle, and Meri gone, Kody and Robyn were left alone in their big house, surrounded by the echoes of a family that once dreamed of unity. The vision of one big, happy, plural family was over. What remained was isolation, regret, and a lot of unanswered questions. Robyn, who had once hoped for sisterhood, now found herself at the center of a much smaller world, with Kody as her only real ally. It took real courage for the wives to leave. They'd been raised to believe that walking away meant losing everything, not just their marriage, but their place in eternity. Breaking free from that kind of pressure isn't easy. It means facing judgment, starting over, and learning to trust yourself again. but they did it. They chose themselves, and in doing so, they showed everyone watching that it's possible to break the cycle, even when the odds are stacked against you. For anyone who's ever felt trapped or powerless, their story is a reminder that you can reclaim your life no matter how long it takes. Looking back at everything the Browns have been through, it's impossible not to feel a mix of heartbreak and hope. We watched a family promise unity and love, only to see it unravel under the weight of favoritism, manipulation, and broken trust. Garrison's death was the final blow, but the cracks had been there for years, hidden in the way Kody treated his wives, in Robyn's quiet power grabs, and in the sacrifices Meri, Janelle, and Christine made just to keep the peace. In the end, the women found the strength to walk away, proving that even after years of being told to stay silent and submit, you can choose yourself and start again. I want to hear from you. What moments hit you the hardest? Did you see the warning signs before the family finally split? Do you think Kody and Robyn ever really wanted the big family they claimed, or was it always about control? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your stories matter here. If you found this breakdown honest and eye-opening, please subscribe to TLC Sister Wives Daily, hit that like button, and share this video with anyone who's followed the Browns' journey. Thank you for being part of this community and for caring about these stories as much as I do. I'm Sarah, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll dig even deeper into the moments that changed everything. Take care, and keep speaking your truth.